Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
Welcome once again to the Dr. Sky Show, heard nationally on radio stations like this. Ladies and gentlemen, a fantastic guest today as we're going to be speaking with the man himself, Mr. Don LaFontaine, voiceover master. A brief introduction of Mr. LaFontaine. Mr. LaFontaine was born in Duluth, Minnesota, also known as That Announcer Guy, is a voice actor famous for recording over 5,000 movie trailers, television commercials, network promotions, and video game trailers. His signature voice is both ominous and sonorous. He is often nicknamed the King of Movie Trailers, Mr. Voice, Thunderthroat, or the Voice of God, and credited with helping to create the modern movie trailer. Many of his voiceovers take the format of, in a world where some negative condition, one, usually a person, will do something positive, and he has also parodied this cliche several times. Mr. LaFontaine has been kind enough to join us from his studios in Los Angeles. Good afternoon, Mr. LaFontaine.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fine. Well, it's a real privilege and honor on this program to speak with you.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. In our short time today, if you could just tell us and tell all the listeners, especially the children in this audience that aspire to do projects like yourself and careers like yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the voiceover.
I sort of backed into the business, more or less. I was trained as a recording engineer when I was in the service back in the late 50s and early 60s. And using that job, I got to work up in New York City. And while I was working there, I was assigned to work with another young man who had himself just gotten out of the service. His name was Floyd Peterson. And his idea was to do radio commercials for movies. And this was like in 1962, 63, in that area. And up until that time, surprisingly enough, movies were advertised in two ways, basically. They were through the theatrical trailer, the previews of coming attractions, and in print ads. There was virtually no radio or television advertising of movies back in those days. Television was, of course, the enemy and viewed movies
right.
much the same way. So this was a radical idea. And I worked with Floyd on a picture called Dr. Strangelove, which was a big hit. And that was sort of our entree into the business and my entree with him. And we found out that we had a sort of a synergistic relationship. We got along very, very well. I had some ideas about writing and producing, and he liked them. And so I left my recording business, the recording company I was working with, and went to work with him. And we became a two-man operation doing radio spots for movies. This was I went to work with him in January of 1963. And needless to say, the idea took off because within 2 years we had our own building just up the street on 55th Street in New York City, and about 30 employees. So that caught on very quickly. The voiceover stuff happened quite by accident. I was writing and producing radio spots for a number of movies, and I had, I think, 6 projects that I had to finish overnight.
Right.
And so I had announcers waiting in the background in the studio to come on and do the work, and one of them didn't show up for a picture called Gunfighters at Casa Grande. And so I had to present something to Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer the following morning, so I went in and did it myself. And much to my amazement, they bought it with my voice, and that's how it started.
Fantastic.
And now we're at 40-something years later, and I'm still at it.
Well, God bless you. And if you're just joining us, ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking to voiceover master Don LaFontaine from his studio and offices in Los Angeles, California, on his career and how you, as a student or a young adult, might want to listen in and pay particular attention on this particular career, a very fascinating career, and we appreciate your time, Don, today.
Thank you.
I was just wondering if you can talk about this. In my opinion, it seems like there's more movies than ever out, and again, I hear your voice, of course, in all locations, and not being able to ever put a face with that name. Is it just recently that you've been identified more in the video side? I know with
just recently I got this spot that I did for Geico,
right,
and after all those movie trailers, I'm the Geico guy. I'm the heir to the lizard all of a sudden. I was very surprised by that because it was really sort of a lark that happened. As I understand it, they were batting around ideas, the people who were doing these commercials, as to who they could enlist to do these spots. The idea being to have sort of a, quote, celebrity endorsement of their product without the byproduct of that being, well, of course they're endorsing it. They're being paid a lot of money to do it.
Sure.
their idea was to have the celebrities act as translators of their own particular ilk of real people talking about their stuff, their experiences with Geico. And one of them said, "Let's get that guy who does the movies things." And that's how my name came up. And I said, "Sure." It didn't take me long. It took me a couple of hours one afternoon. And when the spot came out, I was absolutely flabbergasted at the reaction to it. I started getting all this fan mail and people saying, "We were wondering where you were and who you were. We've known your voice for years, and now we got a face to put with it." And so I apologize for the face. And
no, not at all. I mean, it's absolutely wonderful to meet you here in this radio interview. But many listeners and many people watching television may recall back on April the 12th of this year, you appeared on an episode, describe that, of The Tonight Show.
Yes, well, actually, there was twice I was on. It was the same thing. The same idea was to do the. This person is not an actor, and this was when Haley Scarnato was on the American Idol, and she had lost, and she had been kicked off the show, and so this was the next day, and she came out to talk about her experiences, and then I came out to translate what she was saying, and it was a comedy sketch, and that worked out very, very well. In fact, I was invited back, I think about 3 working days later, to do another show on The Tonight Show, so I did two Tonight Shows within the space of a week.
Don, you probably get this question a lot, but here we go once again. Lots of children and young adults would like to know if they would also like to get involved in this particular business. What do you recommend, and how early can they start, and what should they do if they want to do?
Well, you can start at any time. There are many children doing commercials, obviously, because there's a call for kids' voices. I would recommend that anybody interested in doing this begin by reading a lot and reading aloud to themselves and reading into a recording device so they can start hearing, start getting used to how their voices sound, because the first time someone hears their voice recorded, it's always a surprise because it's not what they hear ringing in their head. It's a different thing entirely.
Exactly.
And so they should get used to that first, and then the more they read and the more they record what they're reading, the more at home they'll feel behind a microphone, and the more tricks they will literally stumble over. They will find more ways of reading things and how to inflect things and how to make things really work just by doing the reading over and over and over again. The best voice actors that I know of have a sort of a special relationship with words. They understand the music of our language. They understand the proper weight to put on words in the proper places and where to put a pause and where to put an emphasis. And it truly is voice acting. And that's why I call myself a voice actor. I've always associated with sort of acting for the blind. You're painting a picture in sound for a person that they use their mind to then amplify if they're only listening. So it's important that they read and read a lot. Don't you can't do this business watching television. You have to become a participant. You have to read.
Absolutely. And I see on your website, and I'd like everybody to know that to learn more about our special guest, Don LaFontaine, voiceover master, simply go to www.donlafontaine.com. And Don, I'm looking at that very special area right now, which is called Ask Don.
Yes.
And you go into some more specifics, if you don't mind, just a couple of other questions about how to get started in the business. You refer to a book called Secrets of Voiceover Success. If you describe that a little bit.
Yes, that's a book that was compiled and put together by a woman named Joan Baker, who lives in New York, works out in New York, and she herself is an accomplished voiceover actress. And she sent a series of questions to about a dozen of us who work in the field, all the same questions, and she got back, of course, individual answers from all of us, and they covered a wide range of the business and how to get into it and our experiences in it and how to record a demo and how to find an agent and how to deal with clients and all of that. And I recommend the thing highly because the voice acting is a very subjective business. I don't sincerely believe it can be taught much beyond a certain point. I think most of it is instinctual. I think the best voice actors are people who just have, as I said before, this relationship with words. And so Secrets of Voiceover Success is that kind of a book, as is James Alberger's The Art of Voice Acting, that gives you a wealth of material from which you can select that which really appeals to you and you identify with. And I think that's one of the best ways of going about getting into the business.
Our special guest today on the Dr. Sky Show is voiceover master Don LaFontaine, who's speaking to us from his studio in Los Angeles, California. Don, I'm just curious, you know this better than anyone that I could ask this question to. Our listeners would probably want to know, how competitive is this business in today's world?
It's very busy. It's very competitive. There are a lot of people who want to be in this business and to work in this business. But I must tell you, it's much like any other acting business. As a voice actor, I'm a member of the SAG and after the Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. And as it is in that trade, it's the same in voiceover. There's about 5% of us in the business who do 95% of the work. And the remaining 95% of the actors are doing the whatever 5% is left over. That's the way the equation always has been and probably always will be. And for the most part, no one really objects to that because everybody, of course, wants to be part of that 5%. It is a highly competitive area because the profile of voiceover has gotten so high in recent years, and because the use of voiceover has gotten so expanded by blogs, network blogs, and the internet, and 5,000 channels on the television, and as you said earlier, the number of movies seem to be growing each year. So it's a very popular and lucrative field to get into. So yes, it's highly competitive.
Well, Don, this is a question that's, of course, on your website, but again, hearing your answer is always better than reading it. The question is basically, what can I do to improve my voice? Give us some basic tips for people of all ages.
Well, again, reading is really very, very important, and that's the best way of improving it. People get so hung up on their instrument and trying to improve it and trying to make themselves sound sonorous and rich and all that. And they waste a lot of time doing that because the more you work at it, the more you try to force your voice into a certain category, the phonier it's going to sound. People should relax and let their voice be their voice. It is only a tool. It's not the quality of the voice. It is the quality of the reed that makes a big difference.
And I think we can all learn something from yourself on this. You're absolutely right. We see so many people trying to aspire to sound like, a DJ voice, when that may not be their voice at all.
No, and it sounds phony. And you don't want to sound phony. The key to being successful in this industry, one of the major keys, is veracity, is the sense of honesty about what you're reading. And if you're faking your voice, I don't care how honest you're trying to be, it's not going to sound right. So my first advice to anybody is to forget your voice. Forget it. I mean, don't abuse it. Don't smoke and don't drink to excess, and don't go out places where you're yelling and screaming. So that it's hoarse and it's not working for you properly, but accept your voice for what it is. There is work and a market for every voice. Accept your voice for what it is. Concentrate on your reading. Concentrate on your ability to interpret a script, because that's really where the money notes are.
Don, just a few other questions while we have you today, and this is very important. Give us a typical description of your day. I imagine it's very busy with all the requests that you get. I understand, if I'm correct, that you also have the electronic ISDN capability that you can do this pretty much from anywhere. But
yes, actually, I'm speaking to you from my studio, which is in the lower level of my home in Los Angeles. And I do have ISDN, which is, of course, the digital phone lines, which allows me to connect from my home studio to virtually any other studio with like equipment in the world. And I've worked from my home here to obviously to the studios around Los Angeles, but also to New York. I've worked to Amsterdam, to Australia, to England, to Germany, and it's the same as my being there. It's just a matter of a time differential that we had to deal with.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So, yeah, that's really important, and I think that's the leading edge of what's going on now with voiceover, and it's a good thing because what it does, if you have this kind of technology, is allows people who may have a wonderful talent but are restricted by location to enter into the main arena. People who are living in smaller towns or away from Los Angeles or New York or Chicago or any other center of advertising, with ISDN technology, can now enter that competition and work from their homes as if they were sitting in the big cities and the big studios.
Don, we look at this for basically the children of this audience. What do you recommend for them if they really want to get started in this career? I know you've given us some great tips throughout this brief interview today, but speaking directly to them, what would you say to them?
I would say the number one is, as every adult will say to you, stay in school, obviously. Some of you might be very young, but many of you are probably teenagers, and understand that it's no longer a high school diploma that can get you a job. When I was a kid, that was the story. Nowadays, a high school diploma, maybe you can become a shepherd. You have to, you have to stay in school and learn as much as you can. I think that the one thing that I keep harping on, I keep coming back to, is please understand and have a deep appreciation for our language. It is a beautiful, flexible tool, and even if you don't become successful as a voiceover person, you will certainly win more interviews and more arguments if you understand our language and don't rely on conversational crutches like, and oh my God, and I mean, things like that. To perfect your ability to speak is really very important, and it will hold you in good stead no matter what you're doing, especially if you want to go into the field of voiceover. Voiceover is something that, I would recommend singing lessons. That helps strengthen the voice. I would recommend acting lessons, of course, because that, of course, strengthens your ability to interpret whatever you're reading. But if you don't have a real deep appreciation for the language, really don't bother.
Well, Don, the final question I have, we always let the guest, of course, have the last word, but in this particular case, describe to us some of the exciting things that you'll be involved in the near future. Many people, of course, can read more about your bio and all about you at www.donlafontaine.com.
Well, on a day-to-day basis, I work for the networks. I work for Fox. I work for CBS and NBC and a number of other affiliates. I also do the America's Most Wanted show on a regular basis. And I work on a lot of films. What I've been working on recently, actually for the last year or so, has been the Simpsons movie. That's been a huge project.
Absolutely.
And Ratatouille. I've been doing a lot of the cartoons recently for some reason. It goes in waves and it changes, so there's really no predictability as to where I'm going to be going next. But it's always an adventure, and I certainly enjoy. I mean, I love what I do, and that's really the important thing, I think, is that I get up each day and really look forward to coming down here and doing whatever I'm called upon to do. And I wish anybody that's listening the opportunity to come and do this themselves, and hope that they can have that kind of a success, because it's a great living.
Well, Don, it's a privilege and honor to speak with you, and I'm sure all of our listeners are enjoying this immensely. Certainly, when they go to the movies, that voice now, folks, you can actually put together the equation. You see Don LaFontaine on various commercials, more in the video side of the world, but of course, the true voiceover master, Don LaFontaine, who spent time with us today that I appreciate from his studio. Learn more about Don LaFontaine at www.donlafontaine.com. Thank you so much, Don LaFontaine.